Good evening and welcome to BS of the Week. As you'll notice, Patrick is not with us this evening. Unfortunately, he's not well at all. So we wish him a speedy recovery. But here with me this week, we've got our old friend Chris. Chris Weeks, introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, I'm Chris Weeks and I am the coach of the Santa Rosa Chargers.
Yeah, welcome, Chris. Thanks very much for joining us. It's
Cheers, Kev.
Always nice to have you on the show, mate.
Thank you.
Okay,
Nice to
well,
be here.
yeah, without further ado, let's get straight on, if we can do. Chris, do you want to tell us what happened in the LFC this week?
I will indeed. You'll have to forgive my my stuttering and note taking. It's all written on bits of paper. I'm afraid I'm old fashioned.
It's all right.
Okay, we'll start off with Sam Andrews, Darlington Sun Devils against Ben's Kerno Sharks. Now, poor old Sam took a right hammering in this one. It was brutal, absolutely brutal. The Sharks had over 500 yards of offense. Rampant ran for 350 yards. Ben's D held the Devils to less than 100 yards offense. The Sharks had 23 first downs, and poor old Sam had 3. And you don't really need to hear any more about that game because I'm sure Sam's still smarting from that. It was absolutely brutal. Anyway, final result of that game was 38-0 to the Sharks. That drops Sam down to 0-3. The Sharks are 2-1, so they're still in it. But the Sharks did pick up some injuries that are really going to affect their season. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Moving onwards, Martin's Mount Dora Massive against Patrick's Berlin Fire. This was just a war of attrition. This was just defense. 369 yards of offense combined, both teams.
Oh, wow.
15 first downs combined, both teams. Yeah. They were 5 of 46 on first downs and 2 of 35 on second downs. Nobody deserved to win this game. 4 interceptions and 4 fumbles. Yeah. And it was a fumble that ultimately decided it because Martin's running back Goss fumbled, and then Patrick took it down the field and finally got a touchdown to go with his field goal. And that was how it ended. It ended 10-0 to the Fire. Poor old Martin, 0-3. And of course, Patrick, delighted, 3-0. And the motor still runs, you know. It keeps going. He keeps saying every week he's going to lose, yeah, and every week he keeps winning. Yeah. So that was it, yeah. 10-0 to the Fire. Right. Who else have we got? Right. Adrian's Bucks against Ian's Phoenix. This was a really strange game. And the reason I say it was strange is the Phoenix really had so many opportunities to put this game away. And yet, I don't know whether or not it was his game plan was faulty, because I've done this myself on his kicking side, but he kept Ian's Phoenix kept punting inside the red zone. So they'd get to 4th down and punt.
It's strange.
So, yeah, they would have had a lot more points. It was really strange the way it kept going. I mean, I made a note here. Repeatedly punting on 4th down in the Bucks red zone. They punted on 4th and 5 at the 24, shanked it, right? So they punted the 24, shank it. The Bucks got it at the 13. So they didn't even get a touchback. Yeah, they got it at the 13. So it actually worked in Phoenix's favour that they shanked the punt that they shouldn't have punted. It was a really peculiar game, but it was a close game. It went 7-6 Bucks, 13-7 Phoenix, 13 apiece. Bucks missed an extra point, and finally the Phoenix scored and made it 20-13. Yeah, but it was such a weird game. There was so many odd things happened in it. But remarkably, after all that, the Phoenix, their running back Verdell got over 200 yards, and their tight end Mazza got over 200 yards. And yet you look at the scoreline, you wonder where it came from.
Oh, well, fair enough.
A really strange game. Have a look at that one. It was really odd. Right, moving on. Craig Jones's 66ers against Ben Harris's Weasels. 3 interceptions and 10 fumbles. The 66ers went up 20-3 in the first half. And the game was nearly over because right at the end of the first half, they had an opportunity to make it 27-3. And the Weasels intercepted in their own end zone. And that completely changed the game. Because in the second half, the Weasels came back. So from 23 down, which was potentially 27-3, they actually won out at the end, 24-23.
Wow.
So it was a remarkable comeback. And the 66ers, they must have been kicking themselves because the interception in the end zone, and then they had a really valiant goal line stand right at the end of the game. And they looked like they were going to keep the Weasels out, and they didn't. The Weasels scored and won it by a point. So a good game. Right.
Ben's got off to a great start, hasn't he?
He has. He's doing remarkably well, very, very well. I wish I'd done that well when I started. I can't do that well now.
I was going to say, swap it for now, mate.
Yeah, that's too right. I would. Right then, next game, the Rhinos. Against the Patriots. Right, so Steve's Patriots and Richard's Rhinos. It rhymes. Right, all Patriots first half, 21-2 up. And then the Rhinos started clawing it back, and they got back to 21-16. But the fourth quarter was scoreless. And to be perfectly honest, the score kind of flatters the Rhinos because they could have been absolutely massacred. They fumbled 6 times and recovered 5 of them.
Oh, gosh.
So that 21-16 could have been a lot worse, a hell of a lot worse, The difference between the two teams at the end was the quarterback Oakwell for the Patriots, who had 442 yards and 3 touchdowns. And their receiver Drift, who had 306 yards on 13 receptions and 2 touchdowns. And that was the difference in the game. That was it. Wow. Like I say, the fumbles, it could have been a lot different. So the Rhinos go to 2-1, and the Patriots are 1-2. But a good win for Steve there. Right, next game, the Shadows against the Giant Hornets, Collins Giant Hornets. And this was another game of turnovers. Loads and loads of turnovers in these games. And the Hornets won despite 4 interceptions and 2 lost fumbles. But the Shadows couldn't generate any offense at all. And that culminated, it resulted in giving away field position all of the time. And that was how the Giant Hornets ran up the score, because they kept just getting the ball back in, virtually in field goal range all the time. They were either getting touchdowns or field goals. I think by the end of second half, at the end of the first half, I should say, it was 30-3 to the Giant Hornets, right? Second half starts, and exactly the same again. The Shadows fumbled, and straight away, this was at their own 12, I think. So, their own 12-yard line at the start of the second half. Fumbled the ball. The Giant Hornets score again. So it's now 37-3 at the very start of the second half. And then remarkably, the Hornets don't score again.
Gosh.
And the Shadows kick 3 field goals. So the final score was 37-12.
When does the They sort of swap teams, as it were, when the game over defense comes in and the game over attack.
Yeah, you're right. It must have kicked in at some point because, as I say, the Hornets didn't do anything after that, and it was just the Shadows kicking field goals.
The Hornets have got a better defense this year, I think. I think they've invested in their defense, but we shall see shortly.
Well, strangely enough, the Shadows, for all their scoring, defensively, they did remarkably well. They had quite a few goal line stands. But it was the field position all the time, bad field position. So they were just up against it the whole game. Right then. So that brings us to our game of the week.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you on the game of the week, if I may.
Okay.
It will keep the audience in suspenders, as it were. Okay, so shall I take you through the PFC and what happened over there?
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, in the PFC, we had 3 games which were really pretty one-sided, to be quite honest. And there's not really much point in talking very much about them. Eagles 49, the Bombers 0. We also had the Rapiers 44, the Huskies 0. And Conrad's winning streak goes up to number 63 or 64, it might even be now, with the Rivets 58 and the Devils 0. So again, pretty much the scoreline says it all there. So not much point in going through those in detail. Next game I've got is the Stormers 37 against your Chargers 28.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Now, here, to be quite honest, Chris, I thought this was quite a good performance from your Chargers because you kept it to only 2 points with 4 minutes to go. So it could have gone anyway, I think, really. However, the Stormers were quite clever with their clock management and they saw out the game, kept the ball and scored to make the final score 37-28. So you were in it for nearly all the game. Big problem that I could foresee was the fact that you've got the 29th best or 29th worst or whatever way you want to put it, pass defense, and the Stormers have got the 5th best pass offense. And that really was where the problem was. You just could not stop their passing game. And it was strange because although their quarterback only had a 48% completion, they still rolled out, was it 313 yards or something like that, passing, which really was your downfall, I think, to be quite honest. Had you been able to shut off the pass, I think you could have won that game then. Yeah,
to be honest, I went after his quarterback, but I didn't get there, so that didn't help.
Yeah. Well, you forced him into a lot of incomplete passes. But it was unfortunate because that was I was expecting the Stormers to run out a bit more comfortably than that, to be quite honest with you. And I don't mean that in disrespectful way, Chris. But,
no, I'm not offended at all. I expected it too.
Yeah. Okay, next game, Surfers 26 against the Warriors 21. Now, this was a bit of a strange game as well. The Surfers had the ball for a massive 40 minutes in the whole game. They had 179 yards passing, 274 yards rushing, with their running back Barrows being the starting role, basically. But Ambrose's Warriors, the quarterback, they threw for an average of 12 yards for one quarterback, and he brought on another quarterback and threw for 26 yards average. And really, that's what kept them in the game. They had 2 long pass touchdowns, which were both over 40 yards, and that kept them pretty much in it, to be quite honest, because the Surfers had the ball most of the time. But when the Warriors did get the ball, they put some points on the board. And the strange thing was that in the final quarter, nobody scored. So it was a very, very tense final quarter with only 5 points between them. It could have gone either way. The Surfers, basically, though, with that massive ball retention, saw the game out and came out winners in the end. So it was an interesting game.
He's doing incredibly well, isn't he? Incredibly well, considering
Yeah.
the amount of rookies he must have.
Yeah, I mean, he must have had about a turnover about 17 staff or something. It's crazy,
Mm.
17 players. But yeah, next game on my list is the Rough Riders 9 and the Packers 38. And here, basically, you look at the score and you think, oh, that must have been fairly straightforward. But the strange thing was, Peter's Rough Riders took the lead. And after that, basically, the Packers woke up and said, right, that's it. And they just kept going, really, piling on the scores. Good passing display this week from the Packers. Tight ends Lawyer and Kept, I think it is, both received for over 100 yards, and that's so we know where Tom's sending his passes to his tight end. But a good solid performance from the Packers there. Next one on my list, the Generals 26, the Titans 17. And again, we've talked about this before. Another rushing masterclass from running back Hooker with over 200 yards all on the deck. And again, that was really the difference. The Generals always kept the Titans at arm's length. The Titans never really got too close to them. It was a good defensive performance from the Generals as well, keeping, I can't never say this guy's name, Cagliostro and Omega relatively quiet. And that, again, was a good, solid performance from the Generals. Titans will probably be a little bit disappointed they didn't get a bit closer. Next one on my list, Bulldogs 29 against the Maroons 37. I don't mean any disrespect to our friend Scott, but really he didn't win this game. Miranda lost it is probably a much better way of putting it. Twice the Bulldogs were actually ahead in this game. They went ahead 14-10 at one stage, and then a bit later on in the game, they were ahead 21-19. However, they missed a 36-yard field goal, which really, in kicking terms, isn't that far. They also turned the ball over. You were talking about turnovers earlier on, Chris. Well, this one was full of it. Turned the ball over 4 times. They had 1 pass intercepted, and they also had 3 unrecovered fumbles. And the problem was that 2 of those led directly to field goals, and another one led directly to a touchdown. So basically, Miranda's Bulldogs gave away 13 points. And with the end result, meaning that they lost by 8, they could quite easily have won this. I am impressed with the Bulldogs, but they seem to be putting together a very strong team here because we know the Maroons are no mugs.
We're a very good team, yeah.
So it was a worthwhile performance, that. So that's what happened in the PFC. So would you like to tell us about the game of the week then, Chris? What game have you picked for us?
Well, remarkably, Kev.
Yes,
it was
I know.
your game. Yeah.
How to
and I picked it, and you know why I picked it, because you were dominating the game. I mean, you were 17-0 up in the first quarter. Yeah. The Knights hadn't had a look in, and then all of a sudden they managed to put it back to 17-10. And then what did you go and do? You went and returned a bloody a kickoff for 98 yards for a touchdown. Yep. Proper put the boot in. And at that point, you think to yourself, oh, this game's over. Yeah. They're not coming back from that. Yeah. And you must have thought exactly the same. You must have thought, yes, get in there. Yeah, I've got this. Yeah. So, yeah. And again, it was one of those, because they then managed to drive up the field with no time. They moved 53 yards with no time on the clock just before the end of the half and kick a field goal. Yeah, 24-13. So they're still in it. Then the start of the second half, they move up the field again and kick another field goal. So it's now 24-16. Yeah. Then both of you fumble on your next possessions. You get the ball back on the Knights 19 and make it 27-16. The Knights drive again and make it 27-24. Yeah, after a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Yeah. It was nip and tuck, this game. It was great to watch. It was really entertaining. Yeah. Rushmore's fumble again. Short drive by the Knights. Another field goal. 27-27. Yeah. So they've come from 17 zip down. 27-27. Yeah. And then we're in the fourth quarter. Yeah. You drive down to their 10-yard line, kick a field goal. 30-27. Yeah. And it was just like this whole game, right? Kick off, touchback. The Knights then drive from their own 20 for the go-ahead touchdown. Yeah. 80 yards. Yeah. Culminating in a 7-yard sweep. Right. Yeah. It's now Knights 34, Rushmore's 30. Yeah. Right. But then you drive down to the Knights 29. Yeah, and you failed on a 4th and 9.
Yeah,
yeah, and that was the end of the game. But it was definitely. I mean, I've been through all these games, play by play, and that was the most entertaining game, simply because of the fact you kept thinking that you were going to pull away and he catch you up. You're going to pull away and catch you up again, and then for him to actually pip you at the end with an 80-yard drive, yeah, hats off to him.
Yeah, no, fair play. I mean, Brian's always been a good coach, and he's always had a good team there. I have to be honest with you. I thought I was home and dry when I was 17 up. I thought, well, that's it, you know. And to be quite honest, I didn't do an awful lot wrong, as it were.
No, you didn't.
But Brian, hats off to him. He just kept in there. It's as simple as that. It was just determination. And just refusing to lie down and let me bloody win, Brian. But no, fair play to him. Well done. You know, so yeah, that was a good one, because as I say, when I was going through it play by play, I thought, oh, here we go, we've got this sorted. You know, but as I say, Brian's had a bad start to the season, so somebody was going to get it, and unfortunately, it was me.
Well, I mean, to be honest, when you return that kick, 98 yards, I thought that was it. I thought that was game over.
Yeah.
You know, I thought he won't come back from that.
Yeah, but a lot of resilience there. A lot of resilience. Yeah. Yep, good stuff. Okay. So that was your game of the week. Have you got a coach of the week for us?
Well, with that in mind, yeah, I actually have two. I've got two, because I think that they both were incredibly resilient this week. So it would be Brian, as one of them, and of course Ben Harris's Weasels, the other one, because to come back and to manage to win it by a point, right? You know, given how far back he'd been and the comings and goings in that game, the twos and throws, it was. A joint one this week. I'm afraid.
Joint one. Oh, well, they've share the prize. Excellent, Chris. Thanks very much indeed, man. I'm going to ask you in a second to pick a couple of games for us to keep an eye out for next week. But while you're doing that, I just want to. We're now entering week 4 of the season, of a 10-game season. So I want to sort of look at what the playoff picture is looking like at this very, very early stage.
Where am I, Kev? Where am I?
Where are you? The list isn't quite long enough.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
If we look at the PFC, PFC at the moment is sort of shaping up pretty much as we thought it would do, to be quite honest. We look as if we've got the Generals, the Rivets, the Eagles, and the Packers all going to head up their divisions, which leaves sort of 2 wildcard places to play for. And again, at this moment in time, it looks like the Maroons will probably take one of those. And then the other one, I reckon, is going to be between either the Rapiers or the Titans. So pretty much in the PFC, it's the usual suspects to a certain extent, I think, that are going to be dominant there. There are some other clubs and franchises coming up, but I don't think they're quite at the level of those as yet. So those were my predictions for the PFC. On the LFC, however, oh my God, it's total carnage. what we've got is either the Statesman or the Phoenix, or of course the Fire, because Patrick is trundling along there quite nicely. Now I predict that every one of those teams could be on 7-3 by the end of the season, looking at their schedule. On the other hand, they could be on 3-7. It's sort of one of those situations. If we look at the Giant Hornets, they look to be pretty much home and hosed, as always. They're pretty much the dominant force in the LFC at this moment in time. We then look at the Weasels, who are leading their division. And of course, you've got the Rhinos sort of close by. So, what's going to happen there? Are the wheels going to fall off? The Weasels going to carry on winning? What's happening there? And then, of course, you've got Ben Sharks or the Bucks, Adrian's Bucks. And it's sort of like, again, that's a bit of a toss of the coin because, as you referred to it earlier on, the Sharks have got quite an injury list. So they're in danger of struggling a little bit in the latter stage or the middle stages. So it's a very, very interesting playoff picture, if you like, in the LFC. And I'm predicting another team to actually sneak in to the playoff picture right at the very end, and that is my Rushmores.
Oh, confidence. Yeah. I like it.
Yes, because basically, as Andy pointed out, the Rushmores have got a relatively straightforward schedule this year. And I think that will help us. So I think you're going to have the Fire in the mix for playoff places. You're going to have the Weasels, certainly, up there somewhere along the lines. And you might even, at an outside bet, have the Rushmores if we stop fumbling the bloody ball and losing games that we should have won, But that's my bet. So what games do you reckon we should keep an eye on then next week, Chris?
Well, I think we all know what games we need to keep an eye on next week, if I'm honest. Obviously, there's the Giant Hornets against a lesser-known team called the Rivets. Now, they... oh, hello. What's going on there?
Very good. Stereo.
Yeah, it's all right. My screen's flashing on and off, so I'll just carry on.
It's okay.
Yeah, so you've got the Rivets and the Hornets. This is the big test. This is the acid test now. Can Conrad continue to win? Yeah, we all know it's, Well, I don't know. Do we know? Because he keeps telling us that, the end is nigh. Yeah. But he carries on winning.
Me think the white man speak with forked tongue, as they say.
I'm beginning to think that way. Yeah, it's because every time he says it, he wins again. But we will see. Yeah, the Hornets will see. What else? Oh, of course, there's another big game is Alex's Generals going against Lee's Statesmen. That'll be an interesting game because Lee's very good coach, knows exactly what he's doing, but can he stop Hooker?
Yeah.
That's the big. Can any of us stop Hooker? Yeah. I mean, will Conrad be able to stop Hooker if it gets that far?
It's interesting because, as I say, that position there with the Statesman, they really want to keep the momentum up and win that one because they've got two teams breathing right down their neck, as it were.
Yeah. There is another game, again, which we sort of alluded to, which is Tom's Packers against Ben Sharks. Now, that's another good game, but Ben is very concerned about his injuries because has he got 4 injuries, 3 on defense? Yeah. He's got 8 injuries, and I'm sure he's got 4 or 5 injuries, C. Yeah. So it's
I think defense as well, which is a bit worrying.
Yeah, they're 3 of his best defenders, I think.
Yeah.
So
it will be interesting to see how he copes. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the 3 games that I've got my beady little eye on.
Excellent. Yeah, they're good choices there. And as the season progresses, they will become even more important, I think, because at this stage you can't really afford. You've got to keep winning. It's as simple as that, haven't you, to get into the playoffs?
I would have no idea.
Oh, what a shame, Chris. You are doing what I did last year, and you're going for that first win bonus.
Kev, I don't even gain anything out of it. I've traded away all of my draft picks. Yeah.
All right.
The worst I do, yeah, the happier I'm making every other coach in the league.
Oh, well, that's very generous of you.
It's incredibly generous.
Oh, Chris.
They'll be queuing up to trade with me.
Well, look, Chris, thanks for coming along, mate. It's much appreciated. We always love having you on the show here. Going to wish Patrick all the best. Hope to see him back in the anchor seat next week. But for the time being, thanks, Chris. Thanks to everyone. Good night, all.
Cheers. Thanks very much. See you soon.